we're creating about as many jobs as those other metros combined.
So Bend hates to be compared to Boulder.
We could have a whole hour conversation about this.
I think it sets us up another kind of foundation.
It's pretty forward-thinking, developments for an old busted-up sawmill town. These conversations are brought to you by the Ladd Group, Bend's leading real estate team. Help continue this Bend Beat conversation by subscribing, sharing, and leaving us a review.
I want to make a quick introduction to the legendary character that we have here. Your hit list: Bob Woodward, also known as Woody, Bend's mayor from 1997 to 99.
Correct.
Mountain biking Hall of Famer.
Correct.
Prolific journalist, trail builder extraordinaire, and founder of COTA
Co-founder.
Co-founder, medalist at the Mountain Biking World Championships.
Correct.
And polka dot eyeglass wearing Reverend Lester Polyester.
Amen.
Is that a fair intro?
That's a fair intro.
Here we go. Of all the names attributed to you, my favorite was Bend's sexiest man.
Yeah, I got a lot of grief for that one.
Tell me more about it. When was that?
The Source did this one on Valentine's Day issue, and the sexiest man over 50 was me.
Okay.
Which came in for ridicule all over the place. So.
Have you lived that down yet?
I've lived it way down.
Okay. Well, anyways, thanks for having me. As I come in here, it feels like, as you attribute it, this is the museum.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm witnessing a part of Ben's birth, Ben's story. And I appreciate you taking some time to talk a little bit about yourself and kind of the origins of what Bend is today. You're a meaningful part of that conversation, and I appreciate you taking some time.
Yeah, my contribution mainly was on the outdoor sports side.
Okay.
We brought not only cross-country skiing was here, but we enhanced it with the ski camps I did for 15 years. And then the whitewater, we started the whitewater paddling scene.
Okay.
And just different things like that we got very involved in.
Well, so let's go back and talk about your origin story. When did you find Bend, and what did Bend look like then?
Oh boy, it's a long story. I did a ski camp in 1976 at Mount Lassen in California.
Okay.
Cross country, and 3 kids from Bend came in. Great kids, very excited about the town and the skiing. And
yeah.
So I said, well, I'll have to go check it out at some point. That summer, I drove through on the way to Idaho on a raft trip. Yeah. Looked around, thought, what a great little town. That winter, I came up with the University of California ski team, which I coached.
Yep.
And we were at Sun River, we had a great time. That summer, I came up with U.S. Olympic kayak and canoe team.
Okay.
And they did an exhibition at Sun River.
Yeah.
And my wife and I decided, time to move.
Okay. What did Bend look like? How many people lived here? And
12,500.
12,500.
Yeah.
Did you ever imagine, so we just passed the 100,000 person mark.
I didn't imagine that. I thought when we got to around 45, 50, we were going to level out.
Yep. So you didn't picture it becoming what it is today?
Not really.
Now, I guess that begs the question. If you came across Bend today, would you still find it a place that you want to move to?
I'd have some hesitancy.
Yep. It's a different place.
Different place, yeah. It's still very livable, certainly, but I would have some hesitation.
Okay. Well, I have a lot of other questions, but as I was researching you, I found a lot of attributions or posts that you put about music and jazz.
Correct.
Tell me about your love of music, and what's your favorite type of music, and where would you like to listen to it?
Oh, well, I'm a jazz guy.
Okay.
Old school. But I grew up, and my father was very active, and I got a degree in music for undergraduate.
Yep.
And I was never much of a player, but I sang quite a bit.
Okay.
And I was around New York. I was back east when the jazz movement was at its height, the 50s and early 60s.
Okay.
I had a radio show in Connecticut for a while.
Really?
And then I had one locally for a while, but over the years I kept track writing about music and staying in touch.
Okay, so if you had one person you could listen to.
Oscar Peterson.
Oscar Peterson. And where?
Oh, I've heard Oscar many times, but in a small club.
In a small club, okay. Perfect. So as I was looking on your Facebook page, I noticed a picture of Gary Neptune jumping off of a cornice in Tumalo. I think it was in the 70s.
No, Gary, that was in the early 90s.
Early 90s, okay.
And Gary's a dear friend, and he came to one of my ski camps,
Okay.
and we did tumble, and we all jumped off that cornice.
So I went to school in Boulder and lived there for a while, and I'm a climber, and we used to always go to Gary Neptune's.
Yeah.
And Neptune Mountaineering, and like this, it was the history of climbing and the cultural hub for the climbing world.
Gary's shop has always been a great museum. He's just a wonderful guy anyway.
Okay, and so was there any crossover between Boulder and here? I mean,
we had a lot of people come from Boulder to the ski camps, and we had a good connection with them.
Yeah.
But nothing more than that. We weren't going there to do stuff. They were coming here. And then a lot of them started to come to Smith Rock.
Yep.
So they were camping out in the living room here, on the lawn.
I bet it was a fun time.
It was.
Okay, so while Bend has changed, if there was one location that really epitomized your positive emotions for the area and your emotional attachment to it, where would that be?
Well, I think that probably down here around the First Street area.
Yep.
Because we paddled there for years and years before the trail was in. We had a sketched in a trail. We used to mountain bike down there all the time.
Okay.
Aubrey Butte, there was nobody living there. There was not one building at all.
Yeah.
And so it was just, I could mountain bike 2 minutes from the house.
So mountain biking right down here.
Take my kayak, put it on my shoulder, walk down to First Street. So that would be the part of town.
I wouldn't have expected that. That's great. So when you found Bend, and you've obviously been here, a long time. So you've been here, what, about 40 years now?
Just over 40. We're going on about 43.
43 years. What's the one intangible about the community or the location that makes it different and attractive to you than other places?
Well, what made it attractive was the proximity to the outdoors. I always said that I wanted to have a place where I could get out the back door and go right into the woods or the river or whatever, and that was the main thing. The other thing is to be in a small community where you can contribute. You can do more things.
Yep.
Like when I was in the Bay Area, I was into theater, but it was so difficult to get parts because there was hundreds of people casting for them. Yep. Here I could become an actor and a director, which I did for years.
Yep.
And get involved in that, get involved in politics, get involved in land trust, I was on the board.
Yep.
Music school, I was on the board.
Okay.
Things like that. You could get your hands dirty, as it were.
Well, you could make a difference.
Yeah, hopefully make a difference.
You get involved. So let's talk about that a little bit. So now that we've become a 100,000 person metropolis, and we have people moving here left and right, what responsibility do these people that are new to the community have on when they move to Bend? Because it's very different when you move to a 10,000 person town. Your impact is noticeable. You can see your wakes and ramifications of moving to town. But when they come to a 100,000 person town, what responsibilities do they bear on becoming a citizen of
I think
Bend?
it's to get involved in something, whether it be a charity or a outreach operation. Somehow get involved. School board, whatever.
Yeah.
But try to find a niche and get involved.
Yeah. So I'm in real estate, and I'm on the front lines of a lot of the citizens, the people that are moving here, the residents. And I think a lot of them take it for granted that Bend is so vibrant and ready for them. And a lot of the questions they ask are, what can Bend do for me?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to become part of the community, what can I?
Well, here's a classic story. I was on the board of the COTA, and a guy came to the board meeting one night, and he'd been here about 6 months. And he ended up saying the following: I came here because I heard the mountain bike trails were great, but none of them are up to my standard. And I was just stunned. I sat there, my mouth, are you kidding? You said that? You actually said that? I mean, you should have said, I want to get involved.
Yep.
Can I get on a trail crew? Keep me posted. I want to make them. If I want a better trail, I'm going to help make it.
Yep.
Instead of come on, give it to me.
Well, I think that's the very definition of someone that's lived in a small community versus a big metropolis. They've never seen their effect. They've never been able to affect change, and they don't understand that responsibility. And there's usually a learning curve with that, right? I mean, it takes a couple of years. It takes a while for people to understand their role in this community.
I think that's true.
And so we're starting a new event in spring called Bend 101, which is basically, I got the chamber involved and Visit Bend involved and a few other people involved. And this isn't the traditional welcoming committee. What this is kind of training on, the transition from becoming a resident here to becoming a citizen, and the responsibility that is, that comes with that title. And, we're given a little history on every event. We're talking about who are the people, who are the wayfinders, who are the trailblazers that made it what it is today, what are the problems we're dealing with, and these are ways to get involved. This is kind of your on-ramp, and we're hoping that has some sort of tangible effect.
We got some serious problems that need help.
Yeah, well, let's focus on that. So I was going to get to that later, but what are some of the problems that you see? It feels like we're at a veritable crossroads with Bend right now. We've reached this size, we've reached this state of the economy. We have population issues, we have homeless issues, we have housing affordability issues.
You stop right there, you hit on them.
Okay.
First, number one for me is the homeless. We got to do something.
Number one.
We don't want to turn into another Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, LA.
Yep.
It's a real problem. It needs to be addressed.
Yep.
Second thing is affordability of housing.
Yep.
Every morning I come back from the gym, I drive by the Jack in the Box that's closed on 3rd.
Yes.
It's a nice facility. They can't get people to work there because they can't afford to live here.
Yep.
And we have to do something in that regard. There has to be some movement for affordable housing for people who take good jobs. They're offering, Jack in the Box, they're offering $15 an hour and sign-up fee and so forth, but they're not getting anybody. Third thing for me, and this is off, a lot of people don't understand how serious I get about this, but my biggest bugaboo is water.
Yep.
It's going to be an issue. It's starting to be an issue now. It's going to be. How can we support a population of 120,000, say, with a limited resource? So that's a big deal with me.
Yep. Those are the biggest issues that I've seen as well. Those are, let's talk about that. So
sure.
Housing affordability, how desirable Bend is. And while we've seen it change, and you especially, over 40 years, you've seen it change where it's not the place you moved to originally. But for most people, this is still one of the most dynamic, attractive outdoor towns the West has
I
to
always
offer.
say if you're coming from Denver or San Jose, this is paradise, absolute paradise.
Yep.
We're complaining about traffic jams, and they're going, oh, this is nothing.
We get backed up at the roundabout, and we're
you're 10 minutes waiting in line, and you're going nuts, and they were used to 2 hours.
Sure. So while it's always going to be attractive, and people are going to want to continue to move here, and unless we get to the point where we say no one else, we're closing the door behind us, we're going to have more people moving here. And what we cherish about the Central Oregon environment is the direct access and that hard line between urban and rural, and recreation and urban. And we don't want to see endless sprawl like we've seen in Denver and Boise and some of those other places that don't have the urban growth boundaries that Oregon has with the land use laws, things like that. How do we walk this line between providing enough housing and also not becoming a 250,000 person metropolis or endless sprawl? Like, how do we thread that needle?
I wish I had the answer. That's a tough needle to thread.
Yep.
It's going to be an ongoing problem. Planning has got to be addressed.
Yep.
Rent control has got to be addressed. Different things. I'm not the person to do that, but I think there are people that can do it.
Yep.
They've got to get the mandate to do it, though.
Yep. With the most recent urban growth boundary expansion, it was remanded back to the city from the state a couple times about densifying the urban core. Right. And they're saying, hey, we're not going to give you big expansions until you densify and redevelop the urban core. And so I think the future is going to be different. It's not going to be single family housing on 10,000 square foot lots.
We're going up.
We're going up.
I've been a big believer in going up for a long time. I think the downtown core could go up easily.
Yep.
Won't take away from the attractiveness. It'll probably enhance it as far as foot traffic and
Yep.
things going on a lot. So I'm a believer in going up.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm most excited about is that Central Area Redevelopment District between 3rd and Parkway. They've allowed a lot of upzoning in there, and up to 70 feet, I think 75 feet, something like that. And they're going to connect that to downtown with a pedestrian bridge.
Oh, they're going to get the bridge in there. That's a great idea.
And so I think that's going to become a really interesting, vibrant way that we can accommodate.
Yeah.
But the future is not going to be an endless single-family sprawl.
No, absolutely correct.
And I'm on board with that. But it is tough. I was speaking with the housing director for the city of Bend a couple weeks ago, and the calculations that she had is that the average median wage in Bend could afford a $380,000 house. And we had one house under $500,000 when we did that interview. Yeah. So the average median wage, there's 0 homes available right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's a crisis point.
Yeah, there's also, I was impressed at Mosaic Medical. Did you hear their new building they're doing?
Yep.
Where they got the seniors living above and the clinic below. I think that's a fabulous idea.
Yeah.
They've done a great job.
And I know the chamber's getting involved, and they're trying to talk about businesses taking responsibility for providing housing for part of their workforce as well. And so it's going to be interesting, but there's a lot of smart minds that are addressing it. But it's going to be a tough couple of years to figure out.
When we first moved here, most of the housing was single family, a lot of mill workers' houses. I bought my first one for $30,000.
$30,000.
$30,000.
It was probably, you felt that was expensive at the time.
And I didn't think it was expensive. I thought it was a good deal, but coming from the Bay Area.
Yeah, sure.
But still, $30,000.
Brian Ladd here. I hope you're enjoying the conversation and find this dialogue relevant to really what it means to live and work and play in this amazing community. As Ben's leading real estate team, we take our role seriously in representing both buyers and sellers at the absolute highest standards of our industry. For more information on how we can help, feel free to visit our website at benpropertysource.com or text LADD1, LADD1 to 88,000.
Well, so I noticed in your postings about people you've loved or people that have passed or people that you're fond of, the words that you use include words like wit, raconteur, explorer, friend, erudite, vagabond, bon vivant. Are these terms that you would be proud of if applied to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so tell me what bon vivant means to you.
Person who takes life and says, let's have at it. No hesitancy. Jumps into sports, jumps into theater like I did, or jumps into public speaking, jumps into public works, whatever. But just takes it and goes after it with some gusto.
Love it. So obviously you've lived that life. Do you fear that colorful cast of characters in Bend is being diminished as we become a little more economically driven?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent. I don't think there was an emphasis. When we did all these things like getting the whitewater paddling going and all that, it was just kind of exploring, and it was like being little kids again. Well, they were all in their 30s and 40s, but it was like just reinventing life.
So you weren't trying to build an economy based on outdoor industry, you were just building your life.
Yeah, it's just a lifestyle.
So tell me about the mountain biking scene, because as I came in, I saw the book of mountain biking, the Sports Illustrated Complete Guide. You wrote the book of mountain biking. This was back in 1990. So you wrote the book on mountain biking. Tell me about mountain biking and what that meant to you, how the Central Oregon Trail Association was formed. A little bit of a synopsis on that era.
Well, down the street, Gary Bonacker lives, and Gary and Tim Boyle and Don Ipock went up on Mount Bachelor in 74 with old Newsboys bikes, and then ran down. That was the first instant. Yeah. And then in 1976, and so around in there, 77, we called this area Clister Corner. It's a long story, but anyway, we all had old Schwinn bikes.
Yeah.
And we started, the main thing we did was exploring.
Okay.
And that's how it all started. That's how Phil's Trail started, everything. Just exploring. We'd follow an old, Phil's Trail started, we followed an old logging road.
Yep.
And I saw a deer trail, a game trail going off the left. We took it, went in and brushed it the next day. And over a period of weeks, it started to get a lot of use. Over months, it got a lot of use. Somebody added a little bit, somebody added a little bit, somebody added a little. And the trail system started that way.
When did the Central Oregon Trail Association come into play? When did you help found that?
And I'm stuck on a date. I would say probably about 1990.
Okay.
And the Forest Service came to us and said, there's a lot of illegal trails out there being built.
Yep.
We need to have a relationship where we work with you guys, and we got to get better on the Forest Service side. You got to get better on your side and cut down on the renegade trails.
Yep.
So we got together down here at the old Parks and Rec, about 35 mountain bikers.
Yep.
One guy was a lawyer, said, I'll handle the legal aspect.
Okay.
And we incorporated and started from there.
Okay. Do you think that now that mountain biking has become such a large part of our local economy, is there an onus on the city or some of these governmental organizations to contribute funding, or should it still be driven, by the people in COTA, for maintenance of these type of trails, things like that?
Well, I think it should be maintained by COTA, but I do think the Forest Service needs to play a bigger role. They need another trailhead. Fields can get awfully crowded. I don't go there anymore. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So they need another access point, and they're trying, but they need a major terminal.
Yeah. So that terminal has become quite the hub.
Yeah.
But are you thinking something up north or?
Well, I had high hopes for the Skyline Forest, which I rode 100 days at Skyline for 3 years in a row. And with my friend Terry Foley, there's so much territory there.
Yep.
They could have a terrific system.
And that's currently on the market for $101
million.
$101 million. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't have that account yet.
Your city council days. So you served on city council in the 90s from, it was right here, 93 to 99, and you were the mayor during that term.
At the end.
You were mayor at the end, and you ran on the Men Without Ties ticket.
Correct.
Tell me about that.
Well, what happened, I was downtown one morning, there used to be a place called Coffee and Company by the Tower Theater, a little coffee shop.
Okay.
John Wujak was sitting out there, and he was looking pretty serious. He was writing some stuff, and I said, hey, what's up, Wuj? Because we paddled a lot together.
Okay.
I thought he was mapping out a new trip, and he said, no, I'm going to run for city council. You ought to try it. So we talked politics for about an hour. We decided to run, and I would run. Brought home my wife, who had run for city council, said, you guys ought to put together a coalition of 4 and run on that group.
Okay.
And we got Tom DeWolf said, yeah, he wanted in, and so did Steve Stenkamp.
Yep.
And our whole deal is the Men Without Ties meant we didn't wear them, and we had no ties to the development community or the good old boy system.
Okay.
And we got a lot of crap, and we won handily. I don't know if you remember the Paul Harvey radio show, national radio show.
I don't.
We made it on there. We were on the New York Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, different newspapers picked up the story.
Yeah.
And we crushed the old timers.
Okay. Yeah. What would you be most proud of that you helped, usher in during that time?
I think one of my most favorites was the Downtown Street and Sidewalks program.
Okay.
And I thought the city did a hell of a job. We completely redid the sidewalks and streets downtown, but we did it at night, between midnight and like 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it didn't interfere with the tourist traffic or shopping or anything.
Yeah.
And it was very successful. It brought new life to downtown. The other thing was the Parkway.
Okay.
Very controversial.
So I've only known Bend Parkway. Tell me about that.
Well, people didn't think it was a good idea. They didn't think we needed it. A lot of people wanted to bypass, which I did too, starting down at the way south of town and swinging way out east of town and back in.
Okay.
But that didn't get any traction because there was Forest Service property, BLM property. It was a mishmash. Yeah. So the Parkway design, just some people were dead set against it. Yep. We had one guy used to come to the meetings and he'd say, "If you put that damn parkway in, I'm leaving town," and he left.
Sure.
So, but it wasn't an easy deal, but it's proved to be useful, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, without that, this town would be stopped up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, Redmond's dealing with that right now.
Just to sidelight it, typical my character, I inline skated to the ribbon cutting ceremony. So they look up and here come the inline skaters down there, and they're all going, "Here we go again."
Here come the hippies. I find that often some of the most vocal anti-growth, anti-change voices come from people that are newer to the community.
Yeah.
And that the longer term residents are more nuanced about what's happened because they've seen both sides of growth, the pros and the cons.
I
of
think
that.
that's fair.
So that resonates with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the older residents say, "Well, now we could do this, we could do that, we could modify it, make it work."
Make it work. So obviously we've talked about some of the biggest problems with the growth and the change that we've had. What do you think are some of the more positive aspects? What are some of the signs of what's happened of progress? Is it the university? Is it the economy? Is it that kids go away and they come back here as opposed to just going away? What are some of the things that are the most positive outcomes of Ben's change?
Well, let me go back a bit. When we first came here, there was not much to do in Bend. Excuse me. So on weekends, they had the Hilton in Portland had a Bend rate for 2 nights, Friday and Saturday night.
Okay.
You'd go up there, there'd be half the people you knew in Bend, and we'd all go to movies. We'd go get Thai food,
Yep.
Korean food, live it up. So 2 movies, you go Friday in the afternoon, stay overnight at the Hilton, do all the stuff you want to shop, everything. Then it became, a lot of us started going to Eugene on the weekends.
Yep.
But that was, finally we got restaurants that came here and movie theaters, and so that brought us all back home.
Yeah.
But still, our kids were growing up here, going to school and leaving.
Yep.
Now 3 of them are back here already. So the nice thing about the growth, it gave them an opportunity.
Gives them an opportunity to be here
Yeah,
and keep families together.
exactly.
What organization do you think that we owe more gratitude towards, more support of, than it currently receives? Where's our blind spot for someone that, or a group that made a big change here in town?
Well, I certainly enjoyed my little time on the land trust,
Yep.
and I think they've done a marvelous job. And I hope we keep supporting them. It seems like they've got a lot of good support these days.
Okay.
So the land trust for sure.
Okay.
And neighbor impact, I'm a huge fan of.
Yep.
I think they do a wonderful job.
Yeah, they seem to. Okay. There's a lot of great charities. I think that's one of the things that excites me the most is the amount of, nonprofits and charities at work in this community. And it doesn't seem like they're at odds with each other. It seems very cooperative in nature.
Oh no, they seem to all work pretty well. But Neighbor Impact has been up. We got involved with them, and we were very impressed with how it was run, first of all, and what it was doing to the community.
Okay. Who would be one person that you think needs to share their story? For our next interview, who would you think that would be fun to talk to?
Well,
add some color on the Bend history.
For me, I think Bill Smith.
Bill Smith.
And the reason Bill and I worked together on a project, I'll give you a little story. We were going along, and Bill sent me a note saying, "Hey, listen, I want to get REI to come to Bend, but I'm having a hell of a tough time. Could you help me out?" So I went down and looked at what they had offered to REI.
Yeah.
And it was looked like an accountant had put it together. Boring statistics, average age of people that were, who live here, average mean income, all that stuff. And I said, "Bill, we need romance." Because I know the people at REI. I knew Bob, who was their expansion guy.
Okay.
And so I wrote up the history of Bend and a variety of different scenarios about sports and people.
Yeah.
But I called Bob at REI. He said, we'll take another look at it. Took another look at it. Number 2 producer in the company's chain.
Bend REI.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've always been impressed with Bill. He did a great job with the old mill, but it was things like that, outreach like that to the community, to get help.
So I love that for a variety of reasons. One of them dates back to the comment you made when you ran as for city council. You the men without ties to business.
Right.
But yet here you are supporting bringing REI to redevelop the sawmill town. It's more nuanced in Bend, isn't it? It's not anti-growth, pro-growth. It's a dance.
Yeah. And I'll show you one thing I thought you might get a kick out of. Years ago, I know Brian, the other one. You may remember Snow Country magazine?
Oh, yeah.
New York Times magazine's put this out for years.
Yep.
And I had worked for John Fry at Ski, who was the editor-in-chief. He called me in, let's see, what is this? 1988, said, we're going to start a feature called Living in Snow Country.
Okay.
And it was, if you're thinking of moving to Snow Country, and I wrote this piece there, it is all about Bend. And many consider that the biggest breakthrough in tourism.
I would love to get a copy of this. Okay, so this was in 1989.
Yeah.
So with Bend, it's a dance. It's a dance with growth. It's a dance with change.
Yeah, and the people who want to take it easy and think it through and make it work are having a tougher time, I think, now than before, because they kind of get bull rushed by people want to change it. We want to change it now.
Yep. So you think we need to create some space for discourse, for reflection on where we're going, who we should, where we want to, what's our future.
I think another person you should talk to is Gary Fish.
Yep.
Because Gary did a hell of a job. When he first came here, we all went, come on, craft brewing, what the hell's that? We'll go down to Bi-Mart and pick up a 6-pack and,
Yeah.
But Gary's done a wonderful job.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the real pillars of industry.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't see that coming from the little pub downtown.
Well, first time I walked into the pub downtown, there were 3 guys sitting there in full alpine ski gear, boots, the whole rig, drinking beer, and I just cracked up. I thought, I guess that's the crowd they're going to attract.
Walking in their boots. Okay. So perhaps one of my favorite descriptions about you came from The Source. They did an article on you, and they stated that Bob Woodward, a man of levity, is in truth a very serious contributor.
Sounds good to me.
So thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a conversation full of levity, but I think in truth there's a lot of substance and a lot of history to Bend here, and I'm glad to be able to share this with the listeners.
Good, thank you very much.